Oh, well. Look who decided to show up and watch this here live stream. It's you! What's up to our sidekicks and hedge folk out there in the nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream, aka spoiler alert. This is episode 783, wherein we will review some of this past week's comics, as well as talk about some other stuff. Pop culture stuff. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA. It's a comic book store. Come and see me. Joining me tonight are Noel Bartocci and Brian Lieb.
Hi.
Me.
You know, Kevin asked, are they the cult poppers? Are we the cult poppers? Or is everybody the cult poppers? I thought we were the cult popastrano. That was my understanding.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was gonna butcher the word orchestra or orchestra, like the cult pop orchestra.
The cult pop orchestra. Yeah.
The
Popastrators.
But my simple answer was like, we are cult pop, you are cult poppers. But then it just came down to I thought we were hench folk. But I think, and this was my response to it at the end of the day, however you decide to identify yourself, we'll respect that.
That's true. Yeah.
So whatever you want to be, man.
Yeah.
Or woman.
There's people on this show.
They.
When people write into the show, they say, "What's up, cult poppers?" But I don't know. Maybe it's not just addressing us on the show. Maybe it's addressing the cult pop nation.
Now, I actually,
it's like, hey,
that's
people.
what I always thought.
Yeah,
legitimately thought that they were saying, "What's up, cult poppers?" Like they are speaking to the audience at that time.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like it's like saying "fam." Like, "What's up, fam?"
What up,
it's
fam?
Either you or everyone within earshot.
Yeah.
What's up,
but
fam?
Dan H does have a solid point. You know, you do say it at the top of every show. What's up to our sidekicks? And
all right,
folks.
you know what?
That doesn't mean that they're the only ones that are listening.
I'm going to literally amend the script for next week to include other descriptors. How's that?
Cool.
Okay.
and just ignore it, JD. Do what you practiced for the last 10 years. That's fine.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Speaking of which, you down below, he's talking about Dan H. And Kevin are down in the comments typing away. So get down there, type some stuff, and we'll be part of the conversation. I should probably go back to my notes. Sure. Oh, discussion topic. No.
Yeah.
You had a discussion topic.
Oh, I literally wrote it out there for you, but sure. Let's.
Yeah, I was throwing it to you so that you could wing it.
I don't have the script in front of me, so like this.
I thought you had the script. Okay, discussion topic.
You can't wing it with a script in front of you.
No.
I mean,
first
to be fair, Ryan.
Yeah.
I constantly wing it while having the script in front of me.
Yeah,
that's a good point. You get around that. You sidestep that by not looking at the script or reading it.
Yes. Yeah. I avoid all of this hard work on notes by ignoring it. Good. What? On a scale of 1 to 10, asks Noel, how much does Conan leaving Marvel Comics at the end of this year affect you? All right, so that's question number 1. We'll do that. We'll do that first. Not at all. For JD, not even a little bit.
Okay.
As a reader, not even a little bit. As a retailer, I'm going to lose some subscribers to Conan, probably.
Yeah. The long and short of it too, though, is like I guess Conan comics aren't disappearing, just how it is now. Like, Brian, you might find this interesting. Have you read any of the articles about this?
Yeah.
So the rights in other countries, rights rules in other countries are different than rights rules here.
Yeah.
Robert E. Howard has been dead for over 90 years. But in the UK, it's over 70 years before it becomes public domain. So Conan has been in public domain in the UK for a while now, and I think Blaze Comics or some bullshit is actually publishing Conan comics in the UK, and they're reprinting them here as the Cimmerian.
Yeah.
Those are Conan comics in the UK.
Oh, is that right? That's
retitled here.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing it for a while.
Huh.
And Marvel has the rights to use the character here, right? That company has decided, like, we want to do our own new Conan comics, so we're just going to take it back. And Marvel doesn't have it anymore. But there was... I guess they're rushing to reprint tons of things and finish tons of things before they lose the license. Yeah, so I thought that was mildly interesting. I kind of like Conan. I like Conan in theory more than practice. I just haven't read enough. Everything I've read I thought was really fun, but I don't have a shelf of Conan.
From what I've heard, I've never read Conan either, but from what I've heard, the character in the original stories is quite different from the more typical barbarian Conan, not Conan. That is around.
He's redhead, has a pompadour.
Yeah. It's very funny, very funny. So Kevin brings up a good point, and I was wondering too. I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being 0, I am a 1 probably on how much this will affect me too. Especially because, as you pointed out, Noel, it's probably just a gap in Conan comics, not like they're going away. And him being in the Marvel universe, I was never like, so totally fits, you know.
I think that's the that doesn't matter. I never read Savage Avengers. We will review the first issue today, but I've never read the previous. And from what I heard, they're very funny and they're very good. But I've never read them. The only thing that I am missing out on is like Marvel talent or Marvel exclusive writers and artists no longer being able to work on Conan books. I think that's the only thing that really happens.
I wondered if they would do a similar thing to the Cimmerian, or to like they sort of did with Shang-Chi, where the Conan will travel through this portal and something will happen and someone extremely similar will emerge on the other side.
Can you get away with that anymore today? Like,
I think so.
You know what? I could see them doing something like that 30, 40 years ago, like pre-internet, right? Like, Conan went through, but came out Cull, who's exactly like Conan in almost every single way.
Part of the
changed dialogue.
Conan's
just
ancestor,
in general,
I think, right?
Yeah, but just in general, like swapping the name, but keeping pretty much anything.
The Cimmerian now.
Yeah.
I
think that they could probably get away with that in like the Silver Age.
When you say get away with, you mean like in public opinion or legally?
Public opinion.
Okay.
And people like not kind of bulking that like, oh, this is just dime store Conan.
Yeah.
Just because I think the community in general is a lot more just aware, whereas 30 years ago we were a little less kind of aware of like how the sausage is made and making opinions based on it. I think expectations are worse than anything else.
G.I. Joe and Transformers are about to find new homes. What scenario would get you reading either? Marvel! I love the old G.I. Joe stuff, man. The Real American Hero stuff that Larry Hama started in the 80s. I still have such a soft spot in my heart. I go back and revisit those early Marvel issues, like issues 1 through 120. I'll go back and revisit them just for fun. I'm currently doing it. I just read issue 100 again because it's such a fun issue. I would love to see G.I. Joe back in Marvel with a good art team. Larry Hama can keep doing it and just give us a good art team.
Do you think that they would ever do that? Do you think that Marvel would ever license anything ever again now being owned by Disney?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
not being able to incorporate whatever I
would go the same thing, but then it's just like, God, do the overlords actually want to spend money on licensing when they can't get all the profit themselves? They went through such an ordeal purchasing so many other IP.
Right.
Yeah.
And they canceled Fantastic Four when they didn't own the movie rights to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'd like, as much as I would dig it, unless tomorrow Disney buys Hasbro, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, because there's a whole other movie series and cartoons, and it's an ad for a cartoon or for
all owned by Paramount, right? So it's like Paramount does all the Transformers movies and the G.I. Joe movies and shit.
Marvel, or people for Marvel, came up with like Optimus Prime, the name Optimus Prime, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the backstory and all of that. So it's an interesting wrinkle to them not doing
Whoever
Transformers.
does buy them, though, I do think that they should reprint all of those old original Marvel years. Which
For sure.
if they get the rights, they have the rights to
Can
reprint.
you do that?
Right?
Is that how it would
Yeah.
work? Yeah.
Ooh, man, nice big
Just
omnibus.
something. Even if it's like Image, maybe those compendiums, like 40 issues in a nice saga style compendium or something.
Don't give a shit about Transformers though. As much as I love the cartoon and the toys growing up, for decades I have tried to read the Transformer cartoons or comic books, and I just don't care. I don't know why.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same about this kind of thing in general. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the show before, but I tend not to go further down levels of realism, right? Like if it's a comic or a book or an animated series and they make a live action thing about it, or if it's a comic or a book and they make an animated or a live action thing about it, I'm all about it. But as much as I love, Noel, you had mentioned Star Trek before the show, Star Trek comics. I love Star Trek. I have very rarely read any comics and maybe a couple of books over the years based on that property. For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem like that thing when it goes down one level, you know?
I used to be the same way explicitly with Star Wars comics because I never gave a shit about novels and comics and stuff. It was the movies that mattered, maybe the TV show / cartoons, and all other ephemera. But I don't know. I read The Right Thing finally, and it just kind of clicked, and now I enjoy them. I just think it's like, yeah. And also too, like if somebody would attack you on, well, what's like your subjective order of what's primary medium, right? Is it the one it started in, or is it just what you prefer?
Yeah, one that it started in.
Yeah,
I would say. But I guess I could envision a scenario where it's like whatever I first encountered it in, but I don't think so. I think if it started in a comic, even if I first saw it in a movie, I think I would then be like, oh, I would check out that comic. Now I have read a few, which is odd, right? It's an interesting thing, but I have read a few. Like I remember when the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies came out, they did retellings of episodes of the original series, but with the new, slightly different dynamics of they did like the first episode, but things had to be a little bit different because things worked out a little differently in that timeline. That was pretty cool. There was a Star Trek Doctor Who crossover, which had its issues, but and there's a new Doctor Who thing, which I've been meaning to read, but I haven't.
Doctor Who's a pretty good example too, because I constantly try the Doctor Who comics, and I just cannot care. But
have
I love
you seen
the show.
The show's great. I'm really looking forward to the new stuff,
but the comics, no matter what they throw at it, and crossovers and this many doctors and that many doctors, it just does not.
Yeah, it's not like the real thing. I think it's something about.
I think it's tone. You just can't capture
for sure
the tone of the very specific kind of tone of Doctor Who. Like
that was an issue I had with the Star Trek Doctor Who crossover, but the other way. Whoever wrote it seemed to be a big Doctor Who fan and not as much Star Trek. I don't know, but it felt like they really nailed one and not so much the other. Have you seen the newest Doctor Who comic? That looks interesting. Where it's Rose, like a bad Rose, with the previous and later Doctor and the David Tennant Metacrisis Doctor, and that is in it. And I was like, all right, that sounds cool.
I'll wait to find out if it's any good.
We have a comment. Anthony D is asking a question. JD, how can we read those old Larry Hama G.I. Joe stories? Are they available in some format? Well, no. They're all out of print. Except for like maybe 3 volumes of the trade paperbacks from IDW are out of print. Like maybe 14, 15, and 16 are still in print. The rest of them you have to track down for an arm and a leg on eBay or maybe luck out at a comic shop or something.
Maybe
I happen
digitally.
to have. I haven't seen them digitally either.
Yeah, yeah,
But maybe, yeah, maybe.
yeah.
So yeah, I just happen to have a bunch of them from growing up. So sorry. That's why I really want Marvel to get a hold of it. So I'm hoping they'll reprint all of their old Marvel stuff and just give me a big old omnibus or some epic collections or something. Because I love them so much. They're what got me reading comic books back in the day. So I have such a soft spot. I would rebuy all of them again just to have them again in a new format. Sorry, Anthony.
Whoever takes them over, it would just be box of rocks stupid to not reprint the original Marvel years. Just would not make sense. Like, that's easy income. It's just easy income, especially because they've been out of print for so long. I don't know if they're on Comixology. Maybe somebody could find pieces of them, but like the full run, I don't know.
Did they do for G.I. Joe what they did for Transformers, where they're responsible for a lot of what people know of as G.I. Joe?
Yeah, the comics.
Yeah.
It was. I do think that the tail wagged the dog. You know, like the comic did things, and the cartoons and the toys kind of followed suit.
Right.
They went deeper. Yeah,
That's cool.
Anyway,
so yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one more. Almost every possible licensed property has a comic published somewhere. What would you like to see hit stands someday? I think we've asked this one before, and I don't.
Any licensed property that doesn't
Anything.
that's not currently out or anything.
I mean, or if you've got an example of something that like they're doing it terribly, I want this person to redo it. Like, I don't love the latest like relaunches of Buffy and stuff. So if those went somewhere else or were relaunched, I'd be fine with it.
You know, I'm sure there's a show or two that I wanted to keep going that didn't, that I would like to see. But then again, it doesn't feel like, given my earlier answer, you know, it would feel like a little bit of a substitute.
Are there any video games that you guys have played that have been like, I would totally live in that world for a while?
I'm not really a video
there you
game
go.
Guy.
I want some Star Wars comics that are post Rise of Skywalker, or in between the original and prequel trilogy. Like, I want Leia's training. I want pretty much what. Yeah, I want the more exciting gaps filled as opposed to.
What was Vader up to that one day when you didn't see him in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, as much as those comics are really fun, I'm just like, the Vader is turning into like the Joker at DC. Like, he's in every fucking book. Just let's do him and Boba Fett are in every fucking book, and they're good. But like, it's a universe. Let's get like some Leia comics, some Rey, Finn, and Poe comics post Skywalker. Like, I want more of that stuff. Yeah.
I would love some of that. Quantum Leap, yeah.
Quantum Leap.
Yeah. New show coming out.
You know what? Quantum Leap would be perfect as an anthology comic with a different creative team almost every fucking issue.
That would be cool. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I want Quantum Leap Marvel book where he quantum leaps into different Marvel characters.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And it's just if it's Scott Bakula,
he's gonna change.
If it's Scott Bakula, it's always Uncle Ben. It's a different variation of Uncle Ben throughout the multiverse. Always.
Quantum Leap is one of the few like novel thing. You know, it's not a novelization, but a novel in the universe that I have read of. Of some TV show or movie or something. It was cool.
Cool.
Yeah. It was many years ago.
All right, so let's move on to the books. Gotta do it. Here we go. Savage Avengers #1. Marvel Comics. David Pepose And Carlos Magno, an all-new, all-different, all-dangerous team assembles. Since his exile from the Hyborian Age, Conan the Barbarian has conquered the most dangerous foes the modern Marvel universe has to offer. But what happens when this hard-edged Cimmerian finds himself on the run from the cybernetic soldier of the future known as Deathlock? Outgunned and outmatched, Conan must turn to an unlikely group of loners, berserkers, and killers if he hopes to survive the night. But and these savage Avengers defy Deathlock's murderous manhunt, or will they become the next targets in the crosshairs of Thor? I don't know because I didn't read it. What did you think, Noel?
This was a comic with a really large cast.
It was.
Yeah. I was mildly excited for this because I've read some stuff from David Pepose before and I liked it. He did Aftershocks Scout's Honor, which I think we reviewed the first episode or the first issue of, and I read a couple more. It was really good. And then some other thing on Kickstarter, I forgot. But either way, it was like, ooh, a new name who has some other stuff that's kind of cool. Let's see what he does. And this was just like every edgy character in the Marvel universe, convolutedly being pulled together.
When I saw the cover, that's what I thought. I was like,
savagely pulled together.
Yeah.
It was.
Now I saw the cover and I was like, "Oh, that's a cool group. I'm into that."
I love Lanil Yu art too. Just like with JD, when you see either Olivia Coipel's covers and or Jim Chung's covers, and then get into the book and it's like, oh, I feel the same way about Lanil Yu. I'm like, I really love his covers, and then you get into the book and it's just like, cool. It's not it. I don't know. This was fine. I mean, if you're in the bag for this kind of thing, I would give this like a C+. There's nothing wrong with it. It's well done, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't care too much either. Like the cover, I was like, oh, it's a cool collection of characters, not usually put together, but they sort of work. And from the start of the narration, I was like, this is certainly an attempt at a style of writing that's like, I think it's like pulpy is what he's going for. And having noticed that, I'm like, okay, Conan is a pulp character and maybe that's why he's doing this. But I wasn't super into it. You know, I didn't really dig the extended metaphor, or the sort of metaphor that, or turns of phrase that he is using.
It doesn't read like narration though. It reads like it doesn't read like tone. It reads like an outline. Like they just are verbalizing an outline of where people are standing. Like it's almost like blocking on the page as opposed to flourished narration.
Yeah.
It's just like 10 degrees off.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't really my thing either. I like the art. I didn't have an issue with the art. I got a question. Flash Thompson as Anti-Venom is hanging upside down doing like a spidery pose.
Yeah.
Does he do that normally? I thought he was more had those abilities, but didn't do the web sling stuff so much, or like in the weird wall crawler, kind of spidery thing.
I think there's a lot of tools in Flash Thompson's tool belt.
Okay. Yeah. And he has been a big fan of Spider-Man for a really long time.
Yeah,
so
and then also too, like, so there's two plots happening in this comic that they attempt to kind of merge together. It's Conan is being hunted by a Deathlock in order to erase him from the time stream because him being here is bad. And then other characters, I think it's Anti-Venom and Electro Daredevil investigating a mad bomb, old school Grunwald mad bomb that's going to be detonated and everyone's going to go crazy, and it both kind of converge and happen at once. So all of these characters are kind of hit with savageness from the mad bomb. So that throws out most of Flash's control of the Anti-Venom suit. And And then they get shot through time. So some of them wake up in like prehistoric times or the Hyborian age, right?
Really? Yeah, I think so.
So I mean, this is super pulpy, and it could, like, on paper, it kind of sounds kind of dope, where it's just like, we're going to throw this at the wall and this at the wall and look at this. But I don't know. It just doesn't really come together.
Yeah,
for me.
I agree. Like, I didn't dislike it. I probably, I don't know. Would I continue reading it even in like the time when I was getting the most comics a month that I've ever gotten? I don't know. Maybe at that time I would I would carry forward. But the thing with Deathlock that I guess there's more than one Deathlock, and we know Deathlock, but they don't necessarily know him, and he's from the future, I guess. And so I that threw me for a minute, but that was all right. When he's going after Conan, he's like, "You're an aberration of the time stream. You gotta get out of here." Luis has eliminated. I'm thinking Conan is like the whole time. He's like, "Yo, man, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly what I'm looking for. This whole time I've been trying to get back home." You know?
Well, Conan's not really a conversationalist.
No, he's not forthright.
He's not like, "Hey, can we stop fighting for 1 second? Let's talk about both of our needs and how to passively rectify them." Like,
we have
that's
the
not
same
really
goals.
a thing.
We have the same goals here in this situation.
Hey, look at me.
Yeah.
My name is Conan, but that doesn't make me a barbarian.
Exactly.
How can we fix this?
Do you have a way to travel through time?
You know what? If I find out 3 or 4 months from now that, like, oh shit, this book is crazy and you should try it, I'll go back, because, like you said, there's nothing bad here.
Yeah.
It's like missing something, or it's just not really hitting.
Yeah.
So
I find the artwork
later,
to be a little distracting. It's like very busy. There's like so much happening in each panel.
Yes, there's a lot. It's savage.
It's really savaging my eyes.
it's pretty savage. Also, too, some of it like gives me weird Finch vibes and some Diodato vibes, and I don't like that.
Yeah, there's definitely some Diodato vibes in there for sure.
So,
all right, let's.
Oh, just apparently what you were saying about how, like, Conan's not really the talking, opening up type. Evidently, that is more of his character in the original stuff, and maybe a new license of that will hew closer to the source material.
Yeah, he's a talker.
Yeah,
he fixes things with his feelings, not with his fists.
Exactly. He's like a Care Bear. I think the Care Bears were inspired by him.
Yeah, but like instead of a stare, an axe.
Yeah, my Care Bear axe.
Yeah. JD, what's
Let's
next?
It's Bolero, number 5 from Comics by Wyatt Kennedy and Luana Vecchio. 20 years later, the fate of destruction is also the joy of rebirth. Beyond jealousy and desire, beyond hate and betrayal. The final choice, the end of the multiverse, the end of Bolero.
Oh.
Will you be okay? End quote. I'll be fine.
I don't think this will affect that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that you know what, that solicitation almost just like illustrates my problems with this book.
Yeah.
You and I have the same problems. Why don't you tell the people our problems, Noel? With Bolero, the series as a whole.
I talked way too long the last time. Why don't you go first?
When we first read the first issue of this, I was on board. I thought it was great. I was really excited to see where it was going. We're at I don't know if the beginning of the multiverse assance that's going on right now, but I didn't expect the end to be what it was. And then she goes off into the multiverse and is able to experience other versions of herself and her lives and her romances and relationships and all this other stuff. And I thought, oh man, so cool, very excited. And then with each issue, I got more and more confused. And it got to the point where it just felt like it's confusing to be confusing. And if this was told in a more linear fashion, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Another problem that this book has is that Luana Vecchio's artwork, while very, very competent, very good, they seem to draw so many people exactly alike that I'm not sure who I'm looking at all the time. Sometimes it looks like the same person is in the same panel twice, even though they're not. There's a scene where she's walking down the hallway, and I was, wait, which one of these characters in the hallway is her? Because there's multiple lookalikes. Her style, their style, is very confusing at times. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I really wanted to like this. I was really excited about it. And by the end of it, I was just kind of glad it was over and a little sad that it didn't gel together more for me personally. But this is a very personal book from the author. If you read the back matter, very personal and dealing with depression and et cetera, et cetera. So it does feel like somebody working something out for themselves. But I just wish it had brought me along for the ride a little bit easier. What did you think, Noel?
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple things. And also, too, before I go into my mild rant, I think the experience of this book and reading this book, it is a net positive. This was a top of the stack read, even when I was becoming frustrated with it. It is a good book, but I feel around issue 3, it started to crawl up its own butt. It started to not care about telling the story. Kind of like you mentioned, it almost feels like someone's working something out. It's like having a conversation with somebody and their responses are in their head, and then they'll just kind of tell you the next piece. They stopped caring about bringing you along and just started throwing things out like in no particular order. When the book slowed down, so I'm thinking around the first issue is a Brian K. Vaughan level masterpiece. You spend 75 to 85% of the time just getting to know these like 4 main characters, and it's fascinating before anything supernatural even shows up.
Yeah, you don't know about that
like,
until the last page, right?
The first issue is so strong, it almost makes the next 4 kind of worth it. And then there are moments when the book slows down and just you stay in one kind of reality with her. When she meets the guy, Will, and spends like 5 years with him, it becomes that book again. And then it abandons that with multiple keys and then a whole issue of there are different versions of us that try both of this, and it's not just Devin, it's the other, it's I forget her name, her girlfriend's name. Either way, it's multiple people doing multiple things, and the last issue they reveal that there's a version of them somewhere in the multiverse that figured it out and went traveling together and all these things. And then that's not even touched on, and it goes back to a Devin story. It's like the authors, I guess the creators are telling a story for themselves and weren't concerned with taking us along for the ride, it feels like, which kind of bums me out. This book bums me out more than it upsets me. I'm just kind of bummed because I was really down for the ride.
Yeah. I feel similarly. It was the first 3 issues for me. I was like, this is solid. I'm really into it. But I do remember that issue 1 was awesome. And then the end of issue 1 looked like issue 2 was going to start in a particular way. And it didn't. It was this like sort of much more far-ranging and doesn't touch on the thing that happened at the end of issue 1 at all. Mm-hmm. But when that happened, it was like, oh, that's surprising. And what an interesting choice. Even though I kind of wanted to see what happened at the end of issue 1, that was all right. And it gets more and more like that. For me, it was issue 4. We reviewed it last time. And it was like, I don't know what's happening for a decent amount of this story. I still thought at the end of that that could be like the crazy interlude, you know, the jangly kind of end before it all pulls together, and was hoping that issue 5 would be that. It was not. It was the opposite. It was not so many different things were happening, but a few things that don't seem that related to what was happening before. There's some stuff that's referenced with her family, which is touched on very brief. Well, importantly, but briefly. It's important in Devon's life, but it doesn't seem to be a big part of the actual story. Becomes a lot of the story, such as it is for this issue. And then there's a lot of cosmic stuff that similarly doesn't really resolve anything or give you any idea of what's happening. For some reason, she seems to destroy Capgraw in this betrayal. But then I think he's all right. Yeah.
I would like to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So she, at the end of issue 4, she throws her key. Like she fucks up royally, sleeps with her other friend, cheats on Will, the relationship, blah, blah, blah. At the end of that issue, Will gets a key and we don't know what he does with it. And then she throws hers away and decides to stay where she is. And I guess just like as a penance. So she stays there for 20 years and that's where this one picks up. After her mother passes, I'm not sure, but after the come to terms with her mother, she goes, I guess, and grabs the key that she was going to give to her friend, but we don't know. I didn't know that was still around. It's just she walks through an alley and she's got a fucking key. But that wasn't for her, so it breaks the rules. The rules that were mentioned in the first issue, but have never mattered since. Yeah,
like she doesn't get to that point or really think about it much. And then this one, she does go beyond it, but you don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and then that turns her into then she rips out Capgraw's heart, soul, becomes a weird interdimensional demon lady, and then goes to talk to a young Devon somewhere in the multiverse to let her know what she learned, but not everything. And then Capgraw comes and forgives her and then says hey to the kid and we're out. Cool, I guess. Probably would have felt more cathartic as a reader if I understood what was at stake, because nothing was at stake for the character that we followed the whole 5 issues. She was just forgiven and we're down.
When I was reading Final Crisis, I got the impression, the way I described it was like, it just felt like we're changing channels. Grant Morrison is just changing channels. And we stay on something for a minute and then we change the channel again. And it seems kind of random.
He does.
There's giant swaths of information we're not given in that book. This feels the same. This feels like, we're just changing the channel throughout these different timelines and lives. And I found it very difficult to keep up with what was going on.
I think that's what I was trying to describe in the store yesterday. Like I've consumed so much media and then gone through schooling for certain types of media and content creation that there are some times when another colleague will make something thinking or trying to be profound, but all they're doing is being dismissive and or dropping things for mystery. Like it's like a can't you tell? Like the perfect example would be Quentin Tarantino. So Quentin Tarantino, I'm gonna make my movie out of order. Cool, but he had it in order to make sense first. But there were some people that just started writing out of order or creating a story out of order and didn't have it figured out. And you're like, this doesn't make sense. Stop it. So like, it's kind of like that razor thin edge. Also too, guys, did you go through every page? Did you see the coda at the very end?
I did, which was weird being after several ads for other comics. And it was... after back matter is one thing, but I don't know why I even kept going. But
so it's technically a happy ending for this version of Devon we saw at the very beginning for 20 years.
Oh my God! Fuck you!
Right?
Get unbelievable. Noel, you told me earlier that there's something afterwards. I didn't realize you meant keep going for so long.
Yeah.
You tried to warn me, but I didn't.
This is like kind of what you were saying just now about doing things just to be doing things that are odd just because it seems like odd or unexpected or difficult is
Yeah.
art, is artsy.
Look
Where
how
they're
edgy
like,
I am.
yo, I put
Like,
it
stop
after even the ads that aren't part of this book. It just popped up on you. You know,
Yeah,
that
this-
kind of thing. Now, in a print edition, you'd be less likely not to see it, but still, it's that kind of like, it's an
Yep.
attempt at depth by putting it after those things, an attempt at something interesting.
To be fair,
Yeah.
it's a great ending that should have came earlier.
Mhm.
Like we got
Why?
resolution. with
Wait,
Will.
what's great about it?
Okay, so Will, who was given a key last time after Devin broke his heart,
Yeah.
was gonna go through it and do it, decided to stay, and she's there asking for forgiveness. So it implies that for the last 20 years in this reality where we had picked up with her, they actually do give it a go and or
Right.
make it.
Right.
So she stays with Will.
I'll tell you what, though, I didn't even know at the end of last issue that he had just received a key. I thought it was revealed that he was also a traveler because there's a lot of that.
So with that reading, maybe
Yeah.
he is also a traveler. The Will that we knew went off somewhere, but whatever Will inhabited this body wanted Devin to stay with her and sticking around.
Sure.
So it's some sort of happy ending for those two versions of that person.
There's
but
also
you're
the
right.
whole deal with
Fuck
like
this
the
book.
like the child Devin and the cosmic Devin comes to meet her and is imparting some sort of wisdom. But what was that wisdom? Like what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they show them in a real ocean at one time, which
it had
I'm into,
it had no it had no stakes though. That's the whole point. Like she didn't whatever she imparted on her younger self, she first of all, she showed up as a fucking weird demigod.
Yeah, like where'd that come from?
Like cool.
Yeah,
but and 12-year-old, I'm down with it, I guess. But we don't know what she imparted because we don't so that means whatever this character learned over 5 issues in the journey we went with her, it's not for us to know. But even though we experienced the story, maybe you should let us in on your entire thesis of the book.
Right.
And 2, she undermines it immediately by saying, I can't tell you everything, and also don't listen to me if you don't want to. And you're like, well, the fuck did you go then? Like, they set up all of these ways for you to poke holes that you're just like, come on, man. Like, I'm more upset about this because it could have been. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no, I enjoy the character arc of like character attains transcendent understanding.
Yeah.
And she seems to in this, but that was not led up to, and I'm not sure why. Especially because it seems like part of the point is like you should find a place to just settle down and hang out. And I'm into her attaining this transcendent understanding, but it seems to have happened by attempting to kill Capgroff for some reason, going through the door 53 times.
Maybe the big revelation that she shares with her younger self is to not seek her mother's approval / forgiveness because her mother doesn't know.
Yeah.
But even though Devin Prime learns that, you can't just assume for me to make that connection when she has a conversation with her younger self. Fucking take my hand and walk with me there, because you have not been forthcoming in the way you've told this story at all. This is your finale. Bring it all together.
Yeah, like spell it out. I like it when people tell their whole story. I'm kind of not so into the ambiguity anymore. Like I'm not as interested. Not that it can't be done well, but
JD, Heroes in Crisis.
Yes.
Which I am going to read again. I actually really want to. But for 7 issues, we were like, fucking land this plane. Where are you going? You're over here. You're over there. You're over here. You had hope the whole time. Like, guys, we're going to land it in
it's
8
fine.
and 9. We're going to do it. We're going
to
do it. It's going to be great. Never does. And that's how this felt. It's just like, or at least Heroes in Crisis attempted to jam it all in at the end and explain it to you.
yeah. At least it made the effort.
This is just like, meh.
I'm looking at this again, and she goes to see her younger self, and then it's 8 years later, and the younger self seems to be in a good situation. And I think that's intended as this version of Devin didn't screw up her life.
Yes.
But there's not even that much here's how. Like she's in a very similar situation to how the Devin that we knew started, kind of at the point where she took the key. And I am assuming that she's not going to do that and her life is way better just because that's kind of how a story would play out. But
I don't know.
You get a light vibe that everything is okay, but it's certainly not sold.
My review of this book is go see Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, I really want to see that. Yeah.
If somebody asks me if they should read this, I will always say yes. And I'd want to talk to them immediately about it.
Oh.
Like maybe also too, the two main characters in this book, actually all four of the main characters in the book are experiences I've never had. So maybe this makes sense to other people.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So like
clearly it does to the author.
Yeah.
That is often the case though,
I mean, I hope the author makes perfect sense too, but like, I mean, does this speak more to a trans reader? Does this speak more to like just body dysmorphia and or imposter syndrome? Does this speak more to others,
right,
than it would be to me as a reader? And is it just not for me, or is it just not done well? So I would totally want other people to read this.
Everybody listening on to the podcast or tuning in, email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com if you've read Bolero and give us your takes on it.
Yeah.
I think we're all in consensus here, but I would like to hear from other people, just as Noel said.
You know what? I will bring up that JD, you had a slight issue with the faces and telling them apart, and I had a little bit of an issue with that too. But I loved the art throughout this book. I thought it was
a good-looking book. It's just not always effective in the way that it needs to be.
Yeah,
we should do this.
But that is one great thing that I can say about it. Like this book, the art could tell the story a little bit better. The individual pictures are phenomenal. Like like the art style, the effects that they choose to use for the more cosmic stuff. And that kind of stuff is great.
I think part of the problem with the book just as a whole too is that we're traversing multiverses, right? So multiple versions of the same characters and or moving through time and space to another like version of yourself. At no point does the art ever reflect a change. So there are times when you're reading it that you don't know if she's in a completely new, slightly altered version, prime version, flashback, not flashback. Like the art does no work towards actually helping decipher the story. It just is telling it in a straightforward fashion, but the story is not straightforward at all.
Right.
So
I've got a page up right now. There's what's happening in this page? There's a girl on the left who I thought was our main character.
Yeah.
And then I see in the background with the striped sleeves under a t-shirt. Oh wait, no, that's our main character.
Oh, what?
But then I see in the foreground of the next panel, our main character is on a cell phone texting. But wait, no, the main character is actually back there. And then we see the next panel. I don't know who that is. There's someone on the phone.
Oh, wait.
The same person who's in the foreground of the previous one. Who are these people? They look exactly the same.
The middle panel is not our main character. She's in the foreground with her phone. Yeah. That is her girlfriend from the beginning that she does everything wrong with. But in this version of reality, they are not dating or they have not like gotten there yet. She's obsessed with this other older guy.
Yeah.
So
they look
that's
exactly
to show you
the same.
In this panel they do, but that's to show you like I forget her name.
Amina, I believe.
I thought Amina's the friend.
See, I thought the same. And Natalie
you're right.
Maybe is
I intensely.
And then the hands, I think, are her.
And I don't remember all the names.
I think the hands are the cosmic one, like breaking those strings. But that would have been a real cool thing to see up front in the book first. To see not in the very beginning, but in the beginning of this issue.
Are you saying that introducing a visual metaphor at the very end of your story for the first time is not smart?
It can be confusing. That's my wild opinion.
So, hey, guys, there's
judgmental
another
because I just
book.
like it.
There's another book out this week?
There's another book. It's called Duo #1. Let's talk about that one. DC Comics, written by Greg Pak, with art by Koi Pham. Nanotech engineers Dr. Kelly Vu and Dr. David Kim are committed to only one thing more than each other, using their regenerative nanobots to save the world. And following a violent attack, those very same nanobots end up saving David and Kelly's lives. Sort of. Their salvation comes with an unexpected consequence. Husband and wife awaken to realize that they now share one super-powered body. So we've seen this before. Firestorm.
Dr. Occult and his wife.
Oh, yeah? I don't know
Yeah.
those people.
Very obscure. I don't even think they're always like that, but they showed up in Books of Magic, I think.
Oh, okay.
And Rose is his wife, and they can each come out at a certain time, but they can never be out at the same time. This guy.
Milestone, also Zombie with an X.
Oh, is that Zombies deal?
That's what this is. It's a Milestone comic. It's a redo of that.
Oh, I didn't
Wait,
know
this
that.
is Zombie?
Isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know. I never read Zombie.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
I
think
thought
so.
there was a redo
somebody
of Zombie that we read recently, actually.
that was called Zombie.
Oh, okay.
No, that was a gift. This is Milestone, but it wasn't called Duo before. I think it was called Zombie with an X.
Oh,
I'll
I
look
didn't
it up.
realize
You guys
this was
go.
like a remake.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I like Greg Pak. I like Koi Pham. This is a good-looking book. It's a fun book, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like the relationship that these two characters have. Yeah, in a very short amount of time, I do feel that they actually love each other, which is hard to nail down immediately upon meeting characters, you know? So I was impressed by that. And everything pretty much happens mostly the way one would expect a superhero duo to have their first issue play out, I think. What did you think, Brian?
First of all, this cover is very cool. I like that motif where you've got the shadow and negative space and you see an image through it.
Yes.
The very 90s, and maybe I think that mostly because of what you said. Yes, this is how you would expect a superhero origin story to play out. And one, I was reading some of my earliest comics in the mid 80s and early 90s. And two, there were a lot of new characters that happened at that time, right? There's a big boom, and so there were a lot of set the scene issue #1s. And Milestone is from that time. So it all kind of makes sense that it would be that way. I thought, yeah, there wasn't anything crazy that happened in this. They've, they're sharing this body. It sucks they can't touch even on the astral plane or the psychic plane.
Yeah,
wherever
that
they're at.
sucks.
You know, they're on the psychic plane. Let them do a little touching, but not this time, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Sex.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
okay.
was among other things.
I did know.
That was the big one. Yeah.
Oh.
So I thought that throughout, and you've got the very villainous villain CEO out to get him, right? They're like, I'll offer you $1 billion for it. And then when they say no, he burns their house to the ground. So up until the final page, was that?
Please go.
Up until the final page, I was like, okay, pretty stock and trade, pretty normal. But I thought that thing at the end was pretty cool, where so these guys, I guess, are now immortal because they'll just heal. And the villainous CEO is part of a group of previously existing, what he considers the real immortals. And you've got a bunch of people from around history. Science
versus magic.
Cool hook. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Would you like to hear? So this is a remake or remix of Zombie, the original Milestone comic, which is decidedly different.
Oh, okay.
So Zombie was a Korean-American scientist named David Kim. He developed a nanotechnological virus capable of extensive tissue regeneration. Similar. Before David Kim could test his invention, a villain named Dr. Sugarman broke into his lab and tried to steal the virus. In the fight, Kim was critically injured, and his assistant Kelly injected him with a virus in an attempt to save his life. However, since the nanites used available matter to restore him, Kelly, who had laid his body in her lap, was partially devoured by the nanites, becoming zombie, a potentially immortal, technologically enhanced human being. So it's his lab assistant that it happens to.
Is she in his head? I wonder. In that version,
I didn't keep reading.
Yeah.
But I love that change. I love the fact that we spent the better half of this book with this couple. I like it a lot, actually. I love the art too. Honestly, don't tell Koi Fan, but my least favorite part of this book was when he got his suit. Up until then, I was like, this is just such a fun, bright art style, and then it kind of became kind of a little glossier and Brandon Peterson-ish, and I'm like, all right.
I mean, I won't bring it up, but if he asks, I might.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys talk to him. But either way, honestly, of all that, we have sampled every milestone book, every number one. This is the best one for me.
You think so? Interesting.
Of the relaunch, Icon and Rocket, I like was all right, but it felt like a zero issue. Like they didn't get anywhere in the story. Hardware was just.
Oh man,
I thought it was a mess.
Static was insane.
Static was wild. It was just that Static was so wild it almost felt like a parody.
Yeah. There were some elements of Static that it was like, what the that doesn't make sense.
And there's another one I'm forgetting, but we tried every first issue and it felt like it was either just a pastiche and didn't have much like meat on the bones or just wasn't quite there. But out of all of them, this one felt like a solid as hell first issue. Whether I was familiar with the property or whether I've never heard of it before, I thought this was pretty solid. I liked it a lot.
Same.
Nice.
All right. Boop. Thor number 25 from Marvel Comics. Donny Cates, Tom DeFalco, Nadia Shamas with art by Martin Coccolo, Ron Frenz, and Simone Armini. The 60th anniversary celebration and Thor and El Hulk's epic rivalry continues in the second installment of the crossover, The Hulk and Thor. This was a lot of fun. We didn't talk about issue 1 of Banner of War. What did you guys think of that real quick?
It was all right. It was cool. It's fun to see Odin show up in his gold outfit, like yesteryear. It was bombastic.
I was gonna say it was brutal and bombastic. There literally is a splash page that looks like a arcade fighter screen. So like,
yes,
that's the tone. Go with it. Like, we're good.
It had a moment that made both of you gasp, and I was taken aback for sure.
Yes. In the past, when any Hulk, has been presented with being or having to lift the hammer, they've come up with cheats, or he just hasn't been able to lift it. So, like, I think it was Red Hulk, flew out. He was able to carry it because it was in space. Right. So, like, no lift, whatever, no gravity. This time, he can't lift it because it's sitting on him. So he stands up through it. He rips a hole in his stomach to get up around the hammer and then continues to pummel Thor. It was brutal. It was hilarious. And I kind of loved it because it's different.
Yeah.
But
what about this one? What do you think about this issue?
This issue, it says Thor 25, but this was a Hulk issue. This was an issue of the Hulk.
Thor was not in too much of this, actually. Yeah.
So I maybe it's like so it's the same writer and artist that's doing all of the issues for this miniseries that's traveling across the Thor and the Hulk book, and it's constructed in linear fashion, and maybe it's just scheduling that decides what issue goes next. But Thor is not in this shit.
Odin plays a large role, though.
You're literally shown important backstory about
real
Hulk
important,
and
but
Banner.
yeah,
That's been a mystery for the 6 issues before this.
yeah.
That have nothing to do with Thor in any way, shape, or
I did
form.
not expect to learn that here in
Yeah.
Thor, in this story, even, you know?
Yeah, some reader that is only pulling Hulk
Right.
has missed out on some very vital backstory on the one
Yeah.
series that they're
Yeah.
reading. Yeah. But I'm reading both, and I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about you? What did you think of this issue?
I thought it was all right. I think I liked it as much as I liked the first one, or maybe a little bit more. I thought the interplay between Odin and Banner was better, where it's not just immediately like, let's beat the crap out of each other. You know, there was some like, let's get to the bottom of this. I did think Tony Stark in the beginning is like, I know this is happening because there was a sound so loud it carried through space, and I was like, screw you, man. You know, that's not what sound is. And then he's like, well, I was just joking. And I was like, all right. But also Reed Richards thought for a second that it was sound.
I'm like a Donny Cates simp at this point. Like I will try any of his books because I just enjoy them.
Yeah.
I never cared or wanted him to write an Iron Man book until reading his Iron Man, because this guy is weird. His Iron Man is just weird. The fact that he
like
did
a
kind of
bit
pull
the
off
MCU
that joke
flavor to his
maybe,
Iron Man, who's like very irreverent. You know,
it's more chaotic than that though. Like it's like a chaotic good as opposed to just like thwippy or quippy.
Yeah,
like he explains the big arena and he's just like, I know, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, that seems weird.
It was funny. I thought it was stupid. And then the giant joke about like it's such a big hit that it created a sound that even that sound traveled through space. And It's like, what? Really? He's like, no, you idiot. No, no.
Yeah.
It does
seem like an odd Iron Man characterization where, you know, I don't read much Iron Man, but to be like that's not really been an element of Iron Man's character before, that he's super into fighting. That I could see Thor saying something like that, you know.
He's super into ego.
He is.
So the only reason, like my interpretation of it is the only reason why he was just like, go fuck yourself, I'm gonna fight him, is because his ego was stung hard in the first issue of Hulk. He stole all of his property and smacked him down.
Oh no, I meant more just being into like a battleground hand, you know.
That part. I was gonna say like his motivation, just like
yeah.
Of course, I'm gonna punch him.
Classic Iron Man move too, where he's like, I'm not even here. I never. Yeah. This is just an Iron Man joke.
I don't come to these meetings.
He,
you know what? More so than Downey, Iron Man, he reads like Ultimates Iron Man.
I can see that. Yeah.
The Miller Hitch stuff. He very much reads like that. Like, just chaotic good. Like at the end of the day, he's gonna do the right thing, but he's gonna fuck with you every single chance that he gets.
Yeah.
He's gonna poke and prod at you. And it makes me kind of miss that.
Oh, really?
When there were different versions of characters that existed in different lines of books until they all became the MCU versions. If I was reading Ultimates, it was a very militant, very jingoistic Captain America that was uncomfortable. But then over here in the MCU, or in the 616, it was a more all of us together kind of Cap. And I'm like, I liked having the variety or the swath of characterization, as opposed to they're all going to look like they have their costume from the movie. They all sound like the actors now. Yeah.
Which is funny because the Ultimate Universe informed a lot of the MCU in kind of where characters are placed on the board, I guess, more than their personalities.
I think logistics wise.
Yeah. And the fact that they all work for S.H.I.E.L.D., there's very few secret identities, although that was because of Robert Downey Jr.'s ad-lib more than the Ultimate Universe. I guess Mark Miller always he's written some things that I've liked, but I never fully committed to his deal.
Rough.
Yeah.
It's always
Superman
case by
Red
case
Sun
with
was
him.
Cool, but he can be a little rough edged for my liking. But of course, Spider-Man and X-Men Ultimate Universe I really liked. But this one, I liked that the reveal is not that Banner had anything to do with El Paso. It's this other personality. He's treading into the Hulk is the antagonist. There's something in him that's bad. We'll see what happens. They did a kind of a similar thing with Mjolnir, and it wasn't Mjolnir. It was something had infected Mjolnir.
In issue, I know we reviewed issue 6 of Hulk, but you opted not to read it, correct? Like
no, I read it. I hadn't read this stuff before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's that's the big bad that's kind of back there, but the idea that it originally manifested in kind of a virus style,
yes,
and that's all new ground.
That's an interesting twist.
No idea what and also too, we're dealing with an unreliable narrator, right? So
yeah,
he only knows what that persona lets him see at times too, depending on which version of the Hulk is driving.
Yeah.
So he knew that he was killing all these people because he even said, like, the only thing he allowed me to do is scream.
Right. And
so
cry.
He was screaming and crying while he was murdering 17 people with his bare hands.
Yeah.
But all of the stuff that predicated it, we don't know if that's...
It's kind of weird
reliable
to see, like, how did that lead to, like, he and the Hulk had reached an accord. How did that lead to him, enchaining the Hulk in this engine room rather than them both? Maybe he thinks the Hulk is responsible, but he seems to be aware that he's not, He
I was going to say he kind of says it in this. So he considers Hulk to just be muscle,
right?
A fuel source,
right?
And the existence of this new thing, it inspired / incited him to get off his ass and just use these as tools.
Yeah.
So I think that's what was creating the kind of like spacesuit system of personalities. And the only one that he can air quotes rely on is the original Hulk as a power source. So it's less, as I've been reading it, it's less it's not ethical, but it's less mustache twirly and more like and more analytical. I had like a scientific analytical. I have this tool. How can I use it to its extent here and here? Yeah.
And they definitely have gone to the story of there is a darker, pure Hulk personality before. Like Peter David did that. And I wonder if this is kind of a similar thing. I know Donny Cates has said this is the Hulk's Hulk, but that probably is just another way of saying a very similar thing where there's another personality that's actually bad, not just the Hulk is not bad,
No.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, it was all right. If you haven't got anything more on that story, I did read one of the 2 backups.
Please.
Which I thought was cool. So I didn't read the first one. It's just a reprint of an older story, which looks cool. It's a classic hero of Thor, but I was running a little short on time. But then I saw that this was Thor's Wedding, adapted from a Norse myth. I was like, well, I got to check it out. And it's a story that I know, although I didn't remember that it's Thor's wedding because of what happens in the story, not his actual wedding. And they at one point they have to state that Mjolnir in Norse mythology does not have an enchantment that only Thor can lift it, because otherwise the whole story doesn't work. This frost giant has stolen Mjolnir, and Loki, I forget if in the original story he was kind of responsible and also gets them out of the trouble, or if he just gets them out of trouble this time, but he convinces Thor that to dress up as the bride that this frost giant wants in order to like weasel his way in to get Mjolnir back. And I think in the original story, I don't think it's obviously not Angela like it is here, but I don't think it's anybody. I think it's just a woman that Thor is pretending to be. And I find it really interesting. Thor, or Norse mythology in general, the gods are kind of different. The frost giants are equal. They're not frost giants. They're giant. They're Jotun. They're maybe more powerful than the Norse gods are. And the Norse gods in general are this less divine, sort of, than in like Greek mythology or whatever, where they run into other beings who are capable of thwarting them. They have had a war with another group, the Vanir, and that they've kind of absorbed, and it's become one of them. And Thor Mjolnir has a very short handle and is hard for him to lift because of that. So he needs a special belt and gloves to lift it at all. Because mostly Warhammers, I guess, would have a much larger handle because of something Loki did while it was being made. And he's not the bad guy that he is often portrayed as in comics, but he's like mischievous. He's good and bad. So, that in itself is that these gods use these like tools to enhance their abilities, and that they need them in order to use their other tools. It's very interesting. There's a lot more to be said about that, but not here. But I thought that the way that the story played out was a cool adaptation, weaving. You got the old school Thor costume into this ancient story, and I remember that was the first place I read a Matt Fraction Thor. He did a sort of similar thing in a painted style, and mostly it was like Loki wore green and yellow, and Thor wore Thor's colors were the only Marvel homages in that. But I loved it. It was just like a cool experiment. Like, why not do that? And this was similar. It was fun. So yeah, he has to dress up as a bride, which in ancient Norse mythology was shameful. But he does it anyway, and he gets his hammer back, and he's pissed at Loki because of it. But they go off together in the end.
So you liked it?
I did like it. I should say also it's shameful, I think, maybe also because he resorted to trickery rather than just fighting his way out. I'm not certain. But yeah, it was fun. It was a light story. The art was very light. It was a very cartoony kind of style and feel. And it was only like 6 pages. It was cool.
Yeah, these felt like I didn't finish either of the backups. Mm-hmm. They felt like what did Stanley used to call them? Drawer stories.
Oh, yeah. They wrote them a while ago, and whenever we're
gonna pop them in an annual somewhere. Yeah. I was just like, yeah, I'll read these later. I have other stuff to read, and I never went back. But flipped through them. They seemed okay.
Yeah. I was going to do the exact same, and that's why I flipped through the first one, because I was like, well, this is a reprint, and I have like an hour left, and I got to read the other books for the show, and I'm super tired. And but then I got to it, and I was like, oh, I know that story. let's sample that. So it pulled me in that way.
Well, I before JD comes back, or until JD comes back, why don't you
talk about how you
speak
of the
show?
Hey, there he is. Go to freaking patreon.com/Chuckto and host the show if that's your thing. If it's not your thing, then don't do it. But if it's your thing, you should do it. If you don't, that's not your thing, then you can just help us out by leaving us a nice review on iTunes. You can comment, subscribe, like this video, do all the normal what have-yous.
If you could text the link to people that you could do that. We never said that before.
Thing people do? Sure.
Well, I mean, you could do it. I get YouTube texts, right? Why not type it out and send it in a letter like the old days?
So many steps.
And have them type it back in with all the WYK282B WOM. Why not?
I hate this place. Number one.
Oh
From Image Comics, written by Kyle Starks with art by Artyom Topilin. After inheriting a farmhouse, Trudy and Gabby are ready to start the next chapter of their lives together. Except it's already home to a mysterious force that's attracted ghosts, aliens, and all kinds of supernatural beings for decades. Now, Gabby and Trudy must play by the house rules, quote unquote, in order to survive living among the most frightening creatures on Earth.
Oh.
This was mostly awesome. This was
Intriguing.
90% awesome. I really like this. This is it feels like a really good horror movie that I'm really into. The art is a lot of fun. It's just wonky enough that it's got some personality to it. It's a little uncomfortable looking, but it's also well done. I love everything about this book except one thing, and it's a horror movie thing, so I guess it falls in line. But like, all right, so you've got these two women. One of them has inherited this farmhouse, and the other one is their girlfriend, her girlfriend, and she was raised to be a survivalist, and so they come to this farmhouse, and then throughout different experiences, they discover that holy shit, there's aliens, there's ghosts, zombies, it's crazy shit going on, and that they can't leave. They find a VHS tape that says, "Sorry guys, here's what's going on. You're stuck here. You can't leave, etc., etc. Here's some rules to follow, and hopefully you'll be all right." So the next morning, the one girl is like, "F this, where I'm packing the car. Let's go." The other girl is like, "But wait a minute. No, there's no but wait a minute. I don't care like what your motivation is." She's just like, "But wait, hold on. I know there's ghosts and aliens and zombies. Let's just chill a minute." No, there's no chilling.
Put a pin in that.
Let's get out. So that was the only part that I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I didn't buy that for a second. That was very, very silly. But of course, there's always something like that in horror movies where they're like, "Well, what if we just stay the night?" And she's like, "What if we just stay 1 year? We'll just be here for a year."
Just a single year.
Yeah. Let's see. Here's the scene. Let's see. Oh, my aunt and uncle lived here for 50 years. We can do this for 1 year. 1 year, and we'll sell the cows and sell the land, and it's all behind us. No! So I imagine like if we had the same, everything was the same except, okay, they actually tried to leave and they found out the VHS was correct. We couldn't leave. Like, of course, as we're watching, you go, of course you can't leave.
Right.
But if it was happening in real life, you'd still be like, all right, let's get the F out of here. Let's go. So had they done that and then wound up, the road always leads them back where they came, maybe that sort of thing, then I would 100% behind this book. It's this one stupid decision where the woman's like, "But wait, let's just stay here for a year." I was like, "Oh, come on." What did you guys think? No.
I agree with you, but that scene to me read almost like just parody at this point. Because it's Kyle Starks. And everything else was just so kind of fun. I was just like, I mean, on one hand, I was just like, thank you for skipping the montage of them trying to escape, but they can't. But then on the other hand, it's just like, well, you made at least one main character made a stupid decision. So I hope she dies. But other than that, I was like, yeah, that's stupid. This is cool, though. I like pieces of this made me uncomfortable in a good way. Like some of the grotesquerie of it, because it's aliens but also zombies, but maybe ghosts that transport you into other bodies, but not so it's wild. And then I think more so than that, though, I like the bookended sequences of somewhere on this land they buried loot, and you've got this like gangster who wants to try and find it. This guy. So
His name is Itchy.
Itchy. Yeah.
Itchy, yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's a fake name. I'm just saying.
Oh, you don't think that's his given name?
No, I think that's his I think that's his undercover name.
Oh, interesting.
Other than that one very kind of dumb character choice, you're right. I like this. I liked all the other pieces of it. and issue 2 is going to decide whether I forgive it or not. Because it happens so early in the story. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it a lot too. Now, I forget if I've mentioned this on the show before, but as an interesting insight and a bit of advice to all the cult poppers out there. In this kind of situation, I always found in my hometown, there's a rumored witch's grave, right? And if you go out there and you touch it, I guess the witch doesn't want you there. So, or for whatever reason, it's hot all the time, this witch's grave. My feeling is there's one of two possibilities. You either go out there and you touch it, and there is a witch, and you are disturbing this witch, and it could be problematic for you or the witch or both. So leave it alone. And the other thing is, it's not real. And then there's no reason to go out there. So leave it alone. There is no good reason to go bothering this witch's grave, whether it's real or not real. So it just reminded me when she's like, I'll just stick around for like a year, you know. The story itself, JD, I agree with you. The art it's like realistic, but a little different. I like the sketchy quality of it, especially in the horror sequences. Like when you see the horned man, I think that heavy sketch kind of, they're not even lines, just like line-y kind of. I mean, they are lines, but it's gives it a real heavy kind of but loose quality. And I like the designs on the monsters as well. Well, especially the horned man. The other ones are fairly generic.
All of the human characters are very decipherable too. Like there's no lazy faces or character designs in this book at all. Everyone is very distinct. Not just the monsters, but like the characters, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. So it's an interesting setup. Let's see where it goes. I would be interested in continuing this. Is this a limited series or an ongoing?
They haven't said. They're calling it an ongoing, but honestly, that just means like
until
6.
It becomes unprofitable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The alt title is "Fuck This Place."
Yeah, I saw that. I looked it up
really
online to try to get a sense of what it was, and I saw that, and I was like, well, it's the exact same cover art, and the written text is "I hate this place," so I guess it's the same book. I do like that the survivalist, the other one says, well, you're into all this stuff. This should be fun. And she's like, no, I don't want those things to happen. I want to be prepared for those things if they do happen.
I did find the scene weird where she's like, where do I put all the guns?
Yeah. Yeah. She's got a lot of them.
And you're like, what? You're like, yeah, my duffel full of guns.
I think it's
what we need.
In some ways was a big relationship illustrator for us about them, that this is who she is, and her girlfriend knows her. She's not like that at all, but she knows her that well that it's like, oh yeah, of course you would have them, but put them right over there.
Yeah, I dug it. It was good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really like this. Yeah. All right, are we talking about the last book? I didn't read it.
We're about to.
Kaiju Score, still from the Gods #2. Aftershock Comics, James Patrick and Rem Brew. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, Michelle has taken another monster score. And while it's old hat for her, her new crew has no idea what they're in for. She's vowed to get them out of this mess, whatever it takes and whatever it costs her. A couple of familiar faces also pop into the hand. Michelle is going to need all the help she can get. I haven't read a single issue of this book ever, and this is the sequel, right?
Oh, you didn't read the first one when we read it?
Nope.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
well,
so
I
go ahead.
You were quite lost.
The first miniseries, Kaiju.
Can't even stick around to make a side comment.
The first miniseries, Kaiju Score. I think it the first issue or two was very rough, but then by the end of it, it was really, really fun. And the only connection that this sequel has is the main character, who in the first book is a side character, like a second lead. And in this, she is the lead, and it's
like
a separate
learning
story.
the trade. Kind of, she like getting her ears wet.
Did you read the first one?
Not that phrase. I read
Did
the
you-
one that we did for the show. I read
So
I think it was
issue
just
1 of 4.
Issue
Yeah.
1. Yeah.
She was revealed she was the safecracker, but then halfway through it's revealed that she was so desperate she actually killed
No.
the original safecracker that was supposed to get the job
Oh.
in order to get the gig.
The score.
So she was pretending to be someone else that the others hadn't met before, just had heard via.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, that's an
So
interesting
she was-
twist. She's
yeah,
not a very
so
good
she was-
person, though.
No, in the first one, she was not a good person and a side character, and she wasn't the main character at all. And then that they kind of fast forward a couple years for this one where she leveraged surviving that experience into having her own team. So you kind of meet her at a completely different place in a more confident, ballsy and ruthless place, which I was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Did they the guy that she goes to that is like on an island hanging out off the radar, was he one of the main characters from the first one?
He is the main character in the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
His specialty was planning jobs. So it was his idea to pull off this heist. So the way in this universe, the way that kaijus are kind of dealt with is they're like hurricanes. They only strike certain areas of the country. We can track them at certain places, and they know when and where to evacuate when an oncoming kaiju emergence is going to happen. They very rarely fight, ever. They just stick to their territories and move around. So the idea was during one of these projected hurricane / kaiju appearances, they were just going to try and pull off a heist in Southern California or like Miami, California. And things go bad. It gets all fucked up. And another kaiju shows up surprisingly, and they're underneath the battle. So it was like really fun. And this one, I guess they have to break into a kaiju.
Yeah, I get the sense it's like a
wild.
particularly large one, that is like asleep. Yeah, and it has some treasure in it.
What I like about this book is the giant monster of it all almost feels inconsequential. And it's more about her crew and allegiances and double crossing. Like it's a legitimate heist movie.
Yeah.
It just happens to be in a world where fucking monsters exist.
It's almost like I wonder, is there a story out there where there is a very similar thing happening with a natural disaster that occurs in our world?
Yeah.
Or did this writer think of that and then thought, it would be cool as if it would be, but you say that there is one.
Well,
like
there
that?
have been other movies that I know of that actually like heists or bank robberies or intricate flim-flams are use natural disasters to
like they know it's coming and they're like, when this happens, we go, that kind of thing.
All of them I think are terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not a completely unheard of concept.
Okay.
But as far as giant monsters go,
that's new. Yeah, it's a combo kind of thing.
What'd you think?
It's interesting. It's almost like, I don't know if there is a term, but maybe there ought to be something like a MacGuffin, but not something that they're chasing or that moves the plot forward, but something that allows the plot action, but is not itself important to the plot.
So far, it's not. Yeah. It's not very important to the plot. Like I get, what they are kind of MacGuffins. The kaiju themselves, even though the characters aren't really going for them, they are the inconsequential but important pieces of
without which it wouldn't happen. Right? But it could be anything. It could be anything that has this effect. Yeah,
they're not trying to get a kaiju, but it is very important to everything around it. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it would be a MacGuffin.
I think this is big enough for another term. If we, if there was one, like I don't know, something else, other.
It's fun.
Yeah,
it's silly and it's fun. Did you like this issue at all?
It was. So the heist aspects of it, I was like, okay, that's cool. They're doing cool heisty stuff. And the one guy has to go back. I thought they do what seems like a robbery, and for I guess no reason, the gun is the scanner for this guy's eye. That was a cool little twist in the story. And then they drop the gun, and the guy's got to go back and get the eye scanner gun, and so that was cool. It a little bit. I was kind of like, all right, I am reading this comic. They're doing the thing that they're doing. This is not my thing. I can dig a good heist movie, but I'm not a big kaiju guy, but I'm not against them. Now it may a little bit be hindered by, for some reason, as I mentioned earlier, I was just super tired when I got home from work, and I'm trying to read all these comics, and I'm like sort of almost falling asleep, and so that's not helping anything. And this was the last one that I read. Now I did think so. I have two little bones to pick with them. I think he's one of the characters, the gardener, I believe, TG, which is it's weird when you abbreviate an article as part of your nickname, but that's fine. That's not the bone. Yeah, but it's like in people that were shipping the Yaz Doctor romance. You know how sometimes they do a portmanteau of the names in Doctor Who? They, I believe, called it Faz. And I'm like, her name is not the Doctor. Like, it should be the D-O part,
So,
but it just seems odd. Right. Docaz, or I don't know, whatever you want. Yoctor. But, so anyway, he says, the gardener says, he's right. We've done our time in the softball leagues. Now we go varsity. Softball is its own sport that presumably has its own levels, one of which is varsity. It's not like you play softball and then you play varsity baseball or something like that, So I thought that was a bit of a mixed metaphor. And also,
say the character mixed metaphors. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe he does. Maybe that's on purpose, and that's a character building element. Who knows? It's sometimes corollary to some things only happen in real life and bad fiction. Like, if you intended it, it's good. If not, I don't like it. But he also, one of the characters refers to the digestive tract rather than the digestive tract.
Oh, that was because that guy's an idiot. That's actually established. Yeah, that was
go. Okay.
Like,
then it's a character beat that he did on purpose, and I'm in. I'm on board.
Yeah. That character's stupid. And honestly, a lot of that too is they're doing a lot of heist tropes. The whole first half of this issue was a little bit of a struggle too, because it was the explain the heist scene.
Yeah.
And it was schematics, which were very well done.
They were cool schematics. It's
like
true.
Describing the chain of events that got them in this situation with a grid with broken lines. I'm like, that's overly complicated, but I appreciate it. Same with the whole explanation of the plot. It's like, just go through it, and I'll learn on the fly. Yeah. Like, I just tune out. I tune out during those scenes often too. Like, you're just setting up. All you're doing is setting up all the things that are going to go wrong in the third act of the movie. So let's roll. I
breezed through a few of those word boxes.
Yeah. But other than that, I like the second half of this, and I really do think that they're setting up a betrayal. So, like, all first two issues, she talks about how her crew is so strong, but that one guy just keeps fucking up. So it's like, he's gonna betray him. It's gonna be cool.
Oh, you think so? You think he's doing it on
absolutely?
purpose?
I think he's
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, Javier, was he in a similar, like, I'll help you out for a price, but is also pulling the strings to screw them over in the first one? I seem to remember something like that. No,
he wasn't the one that betrayed them.
Okay, but he certainly seems like he's going to here.
Him and her were in the shit because someone else betrayed them on their crew.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway,
now the art also, I find, it's of its style, and it's not bad, but it's also a little it catches me up a little bit. It holds me up a little bit. Just there's an exaggerated nature to some of it, which in some places I like, and other places I'm like not as into.
It was a struggle for me in the first series, but I just kind of warmed to it. Like it's great for a monster movie, but it's not awesome for a heist flick.
Yeah.
So I guess it just depends on. So like the first half of the book, the first 2 issues, the exaggerated wasn't working. But the third and fourth issue, where the heist came into play and you've got monsters and action, I was like, this is clicking.
I could see this working real well for a monster rather than a bunch of people in that kind of action.
In its totality, it works. But like, if you're just dipping in, it's like, I mean, I don't like angled chins and long fingers and crazy hair.
Well, it's very much its style, which is a well enough done version of its goal. And some people want to draw in that style because some people want to look at something in that style. So, it's all good for as far as I'm concerned.
So last thought, letter grade, what would you give it?
Oh, I don't know.
It's not that hard.
No,
and it's also not in stone. You could change your mind.
Oh no, it's nothing to do with committing or in stone or anything like that. I just tend to look at things in a less linear way than that, and I like that.
If someone asked you your thoughts summarized in a very succinct way about this one particular issue that you experienced in a linear fashion, how would you respond to that question in as quickly and as succinctly a way as possible?
It's all right.
What if they said, so should I read it?
You like this kind of thing?
When they say, what kind of thing are you referring to? Give some context. That's not just our conversation.
You like that? You like heist things? You like kaiju things? You like mashups?
You're insufferable.
I'd say read it, and yet you suffer.
I do, and I smile about it too. JD, come back in. We've beaten the dead horse of this book.
Yeah. Hey, did you guys see the She-Hulk trailer since last we spoke?
Multiple times.
Cool. Me too.
I'm very excited for that show.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it looks awesome. And apparently the new Thor trailer came out whilst we talked.
Yeah, I'll probably check that out when we hang up.
Yeah.
I am not going to check the Thor trailer. I'm done watching trailers. I already know what I'm going to go see it. I don't need to see anymore.
Yeah. Did you see it? What do you think of the She-Hulk thing? You watched that, right?
Yeah, I think it looks great. The vibe looks awesome, but the CG, I'm sure the CG will be better when it drops, so I'm not worried about it. What'd you think?
I thought it looks awesome. I've always loved Hulk and Hulk-related characters. She-Hulk is no exception. Yeah. Being the main other one that exists at all. And Tatiana Maslany is amazing.
She's great.
Yeah. So I'm sure she'll do a good job. And it looks like it has that sort of fun vibe that She-Hulk perfectly fits into. And so, we'll see how it goes. I luckily don't notice things like CGI being, like, looks like She-Hulk to me.
You mentioned last week when we were talking, or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Moon Knight, your CGI blindness.
Yeah.
We'll call it that.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, that's what you're telling me is real? I'm on board. Let's roll.
It doesn't bother me as long as the only time that CGI ever bothers me is when it's not of a piece. So there's been times I've watched movies where the CGI across the board is the same level and it's just kind of the aesthetic you've created. But then there'll be like one wildly great or wildly janky piece of CG. So like I think the example that comes to mind is in Attack of the Clones. There's like one bit of weird CG. I mean, the whole movie is weird CG, but it all feels like it's of the same part, except during the in the rain fight with Jango Fett. There's like one bit of CGI stunt person Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it looks so weird and unnatural and awful in the moment. It's like that one piece is bad CG. Even if they spent 10 years on that one shot, and it's technically better than everything else in the entire movie, it didn't fit in the context of everything you created. So that's bad.
Does
CG.
it throw everything off for you, or just that in that moment?
Just the scene.
Yeah.
Like just the scene. It's just like, that's rubber.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. See, it's funny you should bring up that movie, because I was thinking of the prequel trilogy as sometimes old effects will get me. You know, it's like if it's happening now and this is what we can do, then it doesn't register. But if I see something from a while ago and I've seen way better since, then I'm like, ooh, that looks weird. That looks
So that means wait, so then all effects will become old effects. So it depends on when you experience it, not whether it's good or bad.
I guess there could come a time where effects are good enough, like computer displays show more colors than you can see, kind of thing. There could come a time where effects are good enough that they will never look old. You know, they'll always just look real. I don't know that we're at that point right now.
Or they'll never look better. It'll always
that could be
unreal.
too. It's always just as good as it gets. Or there will come a time where everything that you see on screen is an effect of some kind or another, in the sense of just actors can look like whatever they want the character to look like. I was going to say,
after this conversation, you should look and see, or just look up like Spider-Man No Way Home effects featurettes. I swear to God, there's nothing real in that entire movie. Like even when he's just walking across the bridge, everything is absolutely fake in every single way. It's just like I watched an animated movie, just a completely animated
which is great. You know, if we can get to the point where they can just make whatever they want and people can be actors even if they're not the hottest people on the planet, then that could be awesome. You know,
well, also like The Mandalorian. It's 98% of that show is in a soundstage, even when they're in the desert. Like there's absolutely nothing real.
But
anyway.
Well,
anyway.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. Thank you for joining us. We will see you here next Monday at 9 p.m. to talk about more comics. Let us know if there are things that you want us to review this week. Let us know in advance so that we can read them and then talk about them. Just, you know, because it's fun.
Hey, we may or may not be here next Monday, you guys. That's
Memorial Day.
Observed holiday.
Oh, no!
Here. That's right. And I won't be here. You may or may not be here. I will not. So
I'll be in the Poconos.
Okay, cool.
How dare you? I was going to see if you wanted to have a cookout, you son of a bitch.
Well, Noel sounds like you're about to get an invite to JD's private weekend in the Poconos.
We're going to the Poconos?
Okay. Nope. Okay, guys. Love ya.